So not sure if you noticed or not, but we've sang that song 2 weekends in a row. I was hoping to speak on it last week, but didn't get a chance. But the song "There Is Another in the Fire," and one of our brothers, I'm gonna ask him to come up. This is very impromptu. I'm gonna ask Jeremy to come up here because this song "Another in the Fire" literally means there is another in the fire. Jeremy, can you come up here, please? So, our brother Jeremy recently married. Congratulations. Um, Jeremy where were you hiking at?
Oh, okay. Straight to the questions. Okay, I
Yeah.
went to Mount Raung in Banyuwangi. East Java.
Okay, and what day were you there?
I went there on Thursday.
On Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
And something happened while you were there?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I think the fire, we call it fire, right? For the forest fire,
So
kebakaran
there was
hutan,
yeah.
kebakaran hutan. So basically, that's what happened. And then like what make things kind of escalate the level of the dangers is because of the unusual weather, according to the locals, is they call it badai, a storm. It's like
Okay.
something like that. So the wind is so strong, it feels like you're standing on top of a train. So it will carries the fires through the path of the hiking path. Yeah.
So there was a fire in this mountain where you were hiking at.
Yes.
Were you in the mountain when the fire started?
I think so, but we realized it super late. I mean, we realized it kind of late, and then it's just like if you watch the kind of minute before disaster, like the hints is already there, but then again we just kind of like ignore it. So
Who's we?
The guide. I mean, the guide tried to warn us, but then again, we as in like myself and another guy that I just met there, like he's from Jember. Yeah, Jember. Jember. Sorry, my bad.
He's from Jember.
Sorry, I used to have to say it with accent, so Jember. Yeah.
So you were warned, but then you just kind of ignored it, like eh.
Yeah, I guess it was far, and it was just like the hot spot looks kind of like tiny, and then like it's quite a distance, and then it's just like what can go wrong?
So what did go wrong? Yeah. Wait. The most important question is you didn't start the fire, right?
No. Of course, no.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
So what did go wrong?
So, yeah, it was. We saw that fire spot, the hot spot, 5 o'clock in the morning. So that was in the time that we were about to attempt the summit attack. It's a terminology that we use to pack up light, bring only like basic snack, and so some small amount of water because you don't want to carry a lot of weights. Go to the summit, right? Mount Raung, and also like the harness, webbing, and everything. The figure eight, and also the carabiner. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. We saw it from the vegetation line. If I have to translate into English, we saw it there, and then somehow we just kind of ignored it. We went up, and then by the time we came back from the summit, which is around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Thursday, then we had another sign like the smoke is getting bigger, and we were thinking like probably this is just a mist. It's just a mist because it's in the late afternoon, right? No, it was not. And then like when we reached into this spot by the name you call it like Camp 9. Now Camp 9 is like the last spot that you can use to build a shelter because it is surrounded with some kind of like shrub and trees and everything. Mm-hmm. So you were not going to be exposed with the elements. Then there's the guy, like there's a porter from the Camp 7, which is where our camp and our supplies and our bags are located, frantically running uphill and telling everyone that you cannot go back down now because the camp is on fire. There's a fire, like, and
Wow.
so basically we're stuck there in the summit. We cannot go up. Yeah, of course, you cannot fly, right? And you cannot go down, so yeah.
And how long were you stuck there?
Not too sure, but approximately about 12 hours-ish. 12 hours. Because the moment that we reach Camp 9 is about 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we reach into the considered to be safe zone, which is Camp 4, the camp that are not affected of the fire because it's in a lower elevation. 4 o'clock in the morning, Saturday. So that's about 12 hours.
So you just got back, basically.
What's that?
You just got back, basically.
Yeah. We tried to go through the fire.
Through the fire. So
yeah,
you
and
went,
smoke and the ash.
you went through. So was that recommended, or you just had to go back, or
It is just kind of like,
nekat?
yeah, the option is just two pants because when it happens, we were in Camp 9, right? We just wait. Hopefully, like somehow the fire will pass by from the west side of the ridge into the east. Hopefully, so when that's the goal, that's the plan. But then again, it didn't happen because why? The fire went up to Camp 9. So now, like everybody just kind of like how the guide give a some kind of like uh, go up to the summit. Like so, we have to climb up all the way up into the place where there's no vegetation, which is like that is like we're so exposed to the elements. We're so exposed with the strong wind, and then like did I mention before like the strong winds, right? So we were staying there for about, I don't remember, but one thing for sure, we were just kind of like, we huddle up all together, just kind of like armpit to armpit like this. I know it's
Bromance.
kind of like, there's nothing much you can do because you just keep yourself warm, and then it doesn't work, so we just have to, just try to be as slow as possible. I was in a fetal position, right? Because I need to kind of preserving like my core temperatures. Now, I don't remember, but according to one of the survivor there, to the point that I start to almost having hypothermia because I start to gibberish, kind of like saying something that doesn't make sense.
Wow.
And then I think at that moment, like I think the guide had an idea to what he just kind of like throw this idea that either you die because of hypothermia slowly, or you give it a try, you give it a shot, try to kind of like pass through those fires. But the danger is still is like this: you might be surrounded by the fire. Smoke will probably will kills you before you pass through the fire, and you do not know how long you have to run through. Because for your information, I was in Camp 9, and then our camp is Camp 7, and then we do not know is Camp 5. Camp 6, 5, and 4 are affected or not. We do not know, right? And then like our energy is limited. We're running out of food. We're running out of water, and then we're so exhausted because of the summit itself is very demanding. Mount Raung is very challenging, kind of like mountain, and then we have nothing. So we just like have only one shot. So if we're using that kind of like one shot, either like we die because of the hypothermia or give it a shot. Yeah, we did it. So as we walk through the downhill, we try as much as possible to put off the fire with the sands, or we kind of like improvise with some kind of a branch sticks, put it off the fire, and then the guide will make a way, he's good though, he's our hero. And then
Okay.
and then the guy behind us, we have to put off the fire to make sure that we're not surrounded by the fire. That was the plan. We throw away the plan because somehow it's too overwhelming. The fire is, I cannot imagine. Like, it's so fast. It's just like the fire is just like yeah.
So at what point did you connect with God?
Oh yeah, good
Okay.
questions. Yeah, good. Thank you. So, three things. I think number one is the way that remember the moment that I got hypothermia. I almost having a hypothermia. I remember I prayed that, God, you can stop the wind. It's just simple. You can stop the wind. This wind is just like killing us slowly. You can, right? Why don't you just like stop the wind? Not just for me. Like these 13 men, not just for me. And now, like if you stop them, like we have a higher chance of survival. Stop now. And the wind stopped only for 5 seconds. And then like the wind keep continuing again. And now, like, and then like, again, it stopped 3 seconds. And then, but then it keep goes on and on and on until like finally I give up. I give up like to pray. You know what, God, if this is the way, yeah, this is the way. And I'm ready. I'm still gonna praise you. If I have to die with the hypothermia, I'm still gonna praise you anyway.
Wow.
That's in my heart like that. So here's the thing. I later found out like the way God respond to my prayer was later, the night after, when after I get out from the fire, and then like I kind of like start to reflecting what's going on. God kind of like reminds me, it's like this. Look, you know what? Yes, the wind. I did not stop the wind. I did not stop the fire. I did not stop the hazard. I did not try to. I mean, the hazard is still there. But then again, look at you right now. Do you have any wound? No. Do you have any kind of like, burns and everything? No. Do you lost any kind of like, probably the clothes and everything? No. Yeah, the only wound that I have is like, ant bite. And seriously, ant bite. Yeah. That's the only wound that I got. Which is later I got it in the base camp. I don't know why. So that's the only wound that I got. And then like
Amazing.
when it happens, it's just like, yep, that's my answer, Jeremy. I did not stop to win. Yes, the fire is still there. You have to go through the smoke. And it's very painful, guys. It's very painful. The smoke, the ash, the fire is very painful, like, to the point that somehow I don't want to eat any satay right now. Seriously, if I smell any kind of like, smokes and everything, I'll become super duper kind of like, tense. So, yeah, I think that's the part like where God kind of like, somehow, I have this spiritual moment now. And then number two, actually.
Number two.
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah. I experienced like the Psalm 23 itself, like, from this experience, like, our guide there is just like the way the shepherd leads us. There's a lot of times I cannot see my guide. I do not know him where is he right now because he was in the front. He was trying to find the alternative route to evacuate us. There's a time that he tried to put off the fire, but oftentimes I don't see him. I only hear his voice faintly because his voice have to kind of like, his voice is being kind of like engulfed with the sounds of the winds and everything and the fire, the raging fires, right? But I have to trust on him. I don't hear his voice, but I need to trust him. I need to keep walking. I need to keep walking. It's just, if I have to just, I don't trust this guy. This guy just can run away and leaving us. But then again, no, I trust him. And it's true. He's always waiting for us in some point. He's always waiting for us in some point. I don't see him, but then again, I can hear him and I can trust him. So we just like, I think that's the way kind of like, God teach me that kind of lessons. God is like that. You don't see him. Sometimes you don't hear him, but then again, you know that, the last thing that you need to do is just keep walking. Just keep walking. Even though it's painful, the smoke is painful. The soil is kind of like, I'm not sure it's a soil or ash, but then it's hot. You don't wanna touch it though. You have to walk fast. And then it's just like, the trees explode in the fire. I just found like trees can explode, pop, just like that. And like the small amber things and everything, it's just like kind of like war movie. It will hit your body and everything. And miraculously, it doesn't burns me. But God is like that. I think from this experience, God is like that in our life. We don't see him, but then again, you just have to keep walking, man. God did not promise you. God did not promise you that you will not going to suffer. You will not going to experience those kind of like smokes and fire and everything. But you have to keep moving. You have to follow him. So I think that's the lesson that I got from this experience. Yeah. Thank you.
Is there a third point?
Oh?
Is there a third point? You can see point one.
I forgot the third point. No worries then. That means it's not important.
He pretty much, my sermon was just right there. Everything that I wanted to say was just right there.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, truly there was another in the fire with you, right? And we had, we're just really glad that God is faithful, that he protected you, he provided for you, and that here you are back. And I'm sure your wife, I don't see her, but she's very glad and happy that you're not toast. All right. So thank you, Jeremy, for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to invite the worship group to come back and we'll be done. Yeah. So, no joke, pretty much that was my message. But we're in the middle of this series called Walk With Me. And it's the idea of just doing life together. And that is a good reminder that God created us for interdependence. And just like the guide, even though you can't see him, that he created us to depend on each other. And I came across this on Instagram by Pastor Rich Wilkinson Jr. He says, isolation intensifies your pain. Community cures your pain. Encouragement is free to give, but priceless to receive. So this is the whole idea of this walk with me, is that we're not meant to do this on our own. We're not meant to live on this earth on our own, that we're meant and created by God for community for interdependence. That's why for our church, it's about loving God, loving others, and reaching the world. So I just want to have a quick recap from previous week. It's a story about Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they honored God, and the implication of that, God honored them back. And the principle is that as we draw near to God, He draws near to us. As we honor God in our daily lives, God honors us. And we could see, how did He honor these guys? How did He honor Daniel and his friends? First, favor with men. In Life Group, we kind of broke it down a little bit more. Verse 9, it says, "Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel." Daniel was going to refuse the meal, but God had already given the chief of staff both respect and affection. In the New King James, it says that God had brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief. God granted Daniel favor and compassion. And so as we honor God and how God honors us, oftentimes He gives us favor with other people. And we need favor with other people. It's not just us and God favors us, but we live in this world and we need favor with others. Even Jesus needed favor with others. Luke 2:52 says, "Jesus grew in wisdom, in stature, and favor with God and all the people." Secondly, God honored them by giving them physical health. Right? They could have eaten the business class meal. They refused that. They didn't want the wine. They just ate vegetables, bread, and water. And it says at the end of the 10 days, Daniel and the three friends looked healthier, better nourished than everyone else. Right? So perhaps for Daniel and his friends, I'm pretty sure they're about like 12 or 13. I'm pretty sure they were mocked. Right? Everyone else was eating the lobster and like, dude, why are you eating the bread? Why are you eating the broccoli? Come on. You know, there's like lobster here. But God saw what they were doing. God is always at work even when we don't understand. And God gave them the best, right? God gave them health, okay? And third, God honored them from favor from God. God gave these four young men unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom. And God gave Daniel the special ability to interpret dreams and vision. So when God gives, He gives the best. When God gives us something, it's something that no other can give to us. He's always at work. And in Daniel's life, he didn't understand why was he given the ability to tell about dreams. But we would see that in the next chapter. And God gave him extreme favor. The king talked with them at the end of chapter 1. No one impressed him as much as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the royal service. And whenever the king consulted them in any matter, he found them 10 times more capable with any of the magicians, enchanters, and the entire kingdom. So the takeaway from Daniel chapter 1, what we've learned from Daniel's experience with the Lord, that God showed up for Daniel and his friends. God protected, God provided, and God promoted. And now we're going to go into chapter 2. And as I said earlier, that God gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meaning of visions and dreams. See, God, He is the master planner. He knows exactly what Daniel would need in his life. God equipped him, God gifted him, God gave him special abilities to fulfill the plans that God has in his life. So we can count on God to give us enough resources, enough gifts, enough favor. He can open all the right doors so that we can fulfill His plans in our lives. So Daniel chapter 2, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. One day, in the second year of his reign, he had a disturbing dream and he couldn't sleep. And he called all his magicians, all the wise people, wise guys, and he says, I had a really bad dream. And they stood before the king. And he says, I had a dream, and that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means. So the astrologers, they just said, long live the king. Common sense, right? Tell us your dream, we'll tell you what it means. Basic logic. That's Dream 101, right? You tell me the dream, I tell you what it means. But the king says, no, I'm serious. If you don't tell me the dream, I'm gonna tear you limb from limb. This king, he's mental, right? Not just kill, but he'll take one arm or one finger, like limb to limb, and your houses will be burned, turned into heaps for rubble. But if you tell me what I dreamt and the meaning of it, you're going to get wonderful gifts and honor. So just tell me what it means. Obviously, that's impossible, right? The astrologer says, please, your majesty, tell us your dream. Tell us what it means. The king wouldn't budge. You're just stalling. I want to know what it means, okay? And they're like, no one on earth can tell the king his dream. No king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any from a magician, enchanter, or astrologer. It's impossible. No one except the gods can tell your dream, and they do not live here among people. The king was furious when he heard this. He ordered all the wise men in Babylon to be executed, including Daniel and his friends. So when Daniel heard this, he went to his friends and they prayed. They asked God to reveal the secret. He went home, he talked to Mishael, Azariah, Hananiah, and he urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them this, his mercy by telling the secret. And God did. God showed up again, and Daniel praised God of the heaven. He says, praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all the wisdom and power. He controls the course of the world events. He removes kings and set up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise, knowledge to the scholars. He goes on and on and on. He says, I thank and praise you, God. So he gives thanks to the Lord. So when God gave him favor, the first thing that Daniel did was give honor to God. If I was Daniel, maybe I would have went straight to the king. I think God would understand. I just need to, so I don't die. But here we see that Daniel gave thanks to the Lord. And that's why I mentioned in Daniel 11:32b, it says, the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. And I said that knowing this, the people who know their God, is that God knows who we are. God knew who Daniel and his friends are because he honored them. He didn't want to defile himself. And so the story goes on in chapter 2 that Daniel was rewarded. After he had told them what the dream was and the meaning, King Nebuchadnezzar threw himself down before Daniel and worshipped him. Can you imagine a king worshiping a foreigner? Okay? And he commanded his people to offer sacrifice and burn sweet incense before him. The king said to Daniel, truly your God is the greatest of gods, the Lord over the kings and a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this secret. And then the king appointed Daniel to a high position. He was already in the royal court. Now he appointed in a high position and gave him many valuable gifts. He made Daniel ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and as well as chief over all his wise men. So we see here there's a continual theme that God protected, God provided, and God promoted. And here's Daniel talking about this walk with me. These are the kind of friends that you want to walk with in life. I said walking with each other is not racing with one another. There's no competition in walking. You're just chilling with your friends. At Daniel's request, after he got promoted, he could have been like, yep, got promoted. But he says, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be in charge of all the affairs in the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained in the king's court. Daniel is a true friend. He took care of his friend. So that's Daniel chapter 2. I want to focus on Daniel chapter 3, but before we do that, let's pray. God, we thank you for Jeremy's testimony. It's actually your testimony of how faithful you are in our lives. Lord, we want to experience what Daniel and his friends experienced. We want to experience what Jeremy experienced. Maybe not all the details, but we want to learn what they've learned. So would you continue to speak to us through Daniel chapter 3? Would you give us an open heart, so soften our hearts so that we would be receptive to your words and to your guidance? We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. So after that story, my story seems nothing. I actually do. I had a 4th of July. I went for a barbecue, and I love to grill. And I was at our friend's house grilling. And if you have one of those grill, like on the top, there's like a lever that you could let some of the air out, but I didn't for some reason, and we start the fire. And then I open it, and just whoosh. And I went like this, my eyebrows. I think half of it was gone. And I went like this, my hair. I wasn't concerned about my face. All I was like, my hair, right? And I smelled like the barbecue, and, you know, obviously doesn't compare to what happened to you. Why did I share that story? Because the story has something to do with fire, but your story is much, much better, okay? So anyway, Daniel chapter 3, right? So King Nebuchadnezzar, he created a gold statue 90 feet tall and wide and set up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then he sent messengers to everyone in the city, right? It says, whenever you hear all people of races, nations, language, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sounds of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harps, the pipes, any musical instruments, what you have to do is that you have to bow down and worship, okay? Anyone who refuses the king's order will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. There's problems with this king. He likes to tear people apart. He likes to burn people, right? And we see in this story, before we go on, that was what's happened, right? And as I mentioned earlier, God had promoted Daniel and his friends. Now they're in charge of some things. They're a foreigner. They were actually from Judah. They don't even belong in that city. Not only they don't belong in that city, they got promoted. So I'm going to quote Tay-Tay here. Haters going to hate, right? Tay-Tay is Taylor Swift. We're kind of tight like that, so that's why I call her Tay-Tay. I know her not that well, but she doesn't know me. Haters going to hate, verse 8. Some of the astrologers went to the king and informed of the Jews. It says they were jealous because the king promoted them. See, these astrologers, like, long live the king. And I'll give you an explanation. That's just messed up. Long live the king. You issued a decree requiring all the people to bow down and worship the gold statue when you hear the sound. And the decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews, I don't know,